I had this great moment, by the way, where I actually started recording this episode where I didn't remember if we'd ever like confirmed how you pronounce his last name.
I looked it up in like his podcast.
Okay. Had Marcus confirmed it?
I don't think Marcus did, unless he did, and he just didn't.
How else would you pronounce it?
I don't know. But in the back of my mind, I was like, oh shit, what if that's not how you pronounce his last name? Like right when started doing the intro.
It's Hoobsoon.
It's actually Hubsoon, yeah.
It's Hobson. It's Hobson. There's no other way to...
Be like Hobson. I don't know. Hubsoon. I don't know. Hobson. Could be Hobson.
Yeah, it could be Hobson.
Anyway, I had a panic attack like as we started recording that you were going to pronounce his last name wrong and we have to like start over because we pronounced his last name wrong.
Did you get a lot of anxiety because we had like a legit podcast from our podcast?
Oh god, yes.
He was like an actual professional.
Yeah, we're not used to that.
He kept on talking about him being in his studio. It was like, hey, where's your studio?
We were like, man, we're at our fucking desk. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
it didn't bother me that much.
It didn't once we started.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. It was just kind of interesting.
I definitely had a moment where like we sat down and he was just ready to go and we were like, oh shit, this is like real.
I think my biggest thing was I'm like, I still don't know why you're here. Like, thanks for coming on, Bill. And I know we do a fun thing here, but like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah, because he's the one that reached, like, we put out the call for guests that we were looking for guests, and he responded to us saying he was interested.
Right.
So we didn't, like, specifically ask him.
So I think our show is actually appealing to a lot of people. It's like, that's a fun thing to do. And it really is. Anyone can come on and talk about their areas of interest, and I think everyone can be good on the show, which one of the things I really love about it.
Right.
But it was just like, because we're talking about guests, and I'm like, yeah, we have like, these like trying to get some like I guess like some scientists or like some professors or someone like who we're looking for to get guests on the show, and then you're like, yeah, I got a guest lined up. It's he does a golf podcast. I'm like, okay,
right. And I was like, okay,
yeah,
all right.
But we do a lot of sports questions, so it's actually quite a good fit.
Yeah, it fits in with our format.
Yeah, it worked out well. I think we can make most guests work. We can find a question that fits them.
Yeah, and even because like we had Zach on, and he's a writer, but he didn't want to talk about writing. He wanted to talk about video games, so he just talked about video games.
Talk about video games. Yeah, it's perfect. We're not going to talk about anything.
It's because we're professionals.
Yeah.
Two very different answers right there.
Based on how many times we got off topic this episode, I would say that's not true.
That's kind of the point of this episode, isn't it? A little bit.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, I guess so.
Well, yeah. I mean, if this was one of our main episodes, I would have pulled your guys' leashes much sooner. It just reminds me, like I was down in Nashville the other week for work, and actually met up with a board game design buddy who used to be in Boston, and he's like had a game published, and like he's doing some cool stuff, and he's a great designer. And we were just talking about like as we do, we talked about imposter syndrome, where you're like, oh man, I'm doing this thing, but I just like feel like such a fraud. Like,
right.
Whenever someone compliments me, I'm like, yeah, but you don't know how bad I am at it. Or like people keep saying nice things about it, but like I know it's not good, and you just don't feel like you're actually like good at what you do,
right?
Even though you are like you are good at your. So what stood out to me was like he was talking about meeting with publishers and talking to people about board game design, and he's like, yeah, but I just feel like I'm just not good at it. All these people are so smart, and it's just like, how do I like? I'm just doing like my stinky games, and I'm like. And he rated it, he rated himself a 2 out of 5 as like a board game designer. And I was like, absolutely not. You are like at least a 4.
Yeah. I think that's pretty common in artists, or just like people doing creative things, the imposter thing.
Because you're too close to your own work to know if it's good or not.
Yeah. And you're overly critical because you see every single part of the process, and you only see the mistakes that you make. And
what, you glossed over it. Even if in glossing over it, like you just instinctively knew the right way to do it. Like board games, not essentially like everyone thinks that there's like some magic spreadsheet you can make to like perfectly balance a game, or like all the numbers you put on cards need to be backed up by like facts and hours of playtesting and all this. But really, your gut feeling is going to get you 95% of the way there, and like you won't have to change it as often as you think you would do. And even if you only spent like 2 minutes coming up with an idea, it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. So like I get a lot with my game De-Enabled, which is it's a wacky party game where you basically you end up collecting cards that are like, you can't bend your elbows, you have to stand on one leg, you can't use your thumbs, and you have to like pass cards while following all these different things. And I like came up with the idea, like once I had the idea, like the concrete game idea, I made it and like hadn't changed the rules in like forever but it's been one of my most successful games as far as like how much feedback it won an award and all this stuff. And I'm like, I spent like a month on this, like barely.
Right.
And games I spent like 6 months on are like not even close to ready. And it's just like, how is this the good, like this one it's been like, I haven't even thought about this game in months and now I'm showcasing it and like it's doing so well. Like what? It's not good. I didn't even look at it. Who even knows? So that definitely happens a lot like I said, like in all creative fields. I'm sure you feel the same about like books and things too.
Yeah, I feel like that sometimes, especially with my older work. Like my first book took like 5 years to write, and I read parts of it now. I'm like, oh, that's awful.
I still think you should let me do the audiobook for that book. I had an excellent British accent.
Yeah, that's just like your default. You just go into British mode.
It's just like how I imagine people to read audiobooks. So like when I'm trying to do like a, quote unquote professional acting narration, I end up like in a British accent. And I don't think it's bad actually. Like listening back to it, I didn't think it was bad.
Say Age of End by Chris Yee.
Age of End by Chris Yee.
Why? How? Why do you do that?
I don't know. It's just like, I think I try to like make my voice a lot softer than it normally is, and then I end up there. But to me, it doesn't sound like, I don't hate it. I don't hate that sound. I don't know
kind of hate it. But I think it's because I've heard you talk before.
Yeah, it's weird because we know him.
Right, like people who know, I have no one to judge. I have to like give it to somebody who's never heard me before, and who's gonna do that?
Oh, it's like when you made the commercial for your other card game, 5-Card Bluff, and you did the voice of the mascot thing.
Okay, I'm gonna say I'm not sure about that thing's a fucking disaster. That whole video. The only thing that's going for that video is that you could actually learn how to play the game from it, but like the pacing and my narration and all the rest of it's just like
I forget what your lines were.
It was not good. I mean, most of my lines were just describing the game, but I did it in my best Southern accent, which is not good. And I actually was rewriting the script with like y'alls and changing vowels to make the right sounds. And I did a bunch of takes on that. I remember you sitting in the living room with me as I was recording it, and that was awkward and terrible. And no one should go find that video because it's still up there.
Still up there.
And if you find it, you could actually buy the game that I made that exists with it. But I'm not gonna say the name here. So
I already said it.
Yeah, it's in there. Just rewind about 30 seconds.
All right, well, there it is. It's a good game. I actually still very much enjoy the game.
It's a good
game.
game.
It's a fun game.
I break it out from time to time and just play with buddies.
That was a preview clip from our Patreon exclusive behind the scenes episode. For the full episode, click on the link in the description.